Hello, hello, hello. All right. Let me know if you can hear that. It looks like the sound is working again. Someone just put a thumbs up or yes, you can hear, and we'll carry on. Don't want to say anything unless you can't hear it. Silence is golden, says Gusta Broken. Okay, good. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about. Tonight's topic is why are the Litecoin Foundation and Token Pay buying a bank? And we just went through the gold and silver numbers. Gold was down at 1242 and silver at 1578. In the crypto space, we mentioned Bitcoin at $6,400. Basically, all the cryptos essentially flat, although they're catching a slight bid this evening. Ethereum at 456, Bcash at 705, EOS at 717, and Litecoin at 78.50. Now, Litecoin was very interesting because I mentioned that there was some news on that, and that has to do with the Litecoin Foundation and its partnership with the Token Pay. I also mentioned the Krugerrands came out today for the first time in a bullion form that is silver. Krugerrands have been around for about 50 years, and they're always in the gold form. And last year, the South African Mint released a silver Krugerrand, but they priced it about 2 or 3 times the price of a normal silver bullion coin. Wasn't very popular. This year, they decided to come out with a bullion coin, and it was released today. We'll see how that goes. But it was priced basically to sell, not as a collector's item. Also, I mentioned that there were some 16 bags of 1,000 Morgan silver dollars each found in the basement of the New York Fed. The people who own them were paying $800 a year to store them. They're all uncirculated, and apparently they're going to go into, I think it's Newstamatic Guarantee Corporation, one of the grading companies, and they are going to sell those as graded coins. Now, as to the mugs, your Smaulgld mugs, they were shipped out yesterday. Those of you who ordered either the Smaulgld Super Classic mug or the Classic mug, the one you're looking at is the Super Classic mug. I will do another shipment tomorrow. So if you're interested in purchasing a Smaulgld mug, you can get that done while you're listening, and I will ship those out tomorrow. Also, NATO. Trump went to meet with the NATO representatives and gave them an earful. Now, it was very interesting what he had done. He went there, and he basically read them the riot act like he's been saying he's going to, and he said that the United States is paying a lot more than Germany, and that Germany is basically a vassal state of Russia, and that Germany has done a pipeline deal for natural gas, and that as a result of that, Germany is beholden to Russia to get their natural gas and their heating oils, and that the United States is paying to defend Germany against Russia, which to him, he was saying, doesn't make sense because it almost looks like they're colluding together to make the United States pay for defense that's not needed. And he was saying, why should we defend Germany against Russia when they're working together? Now, what he's trying to do here is not only get Germany to pay and reduce what the U.S. pays, but he's also pointing out that Germany's in with Russia and that the United States, if we're allies with Germany, that the United States has plenty of natural gas they can sell to Germany as well. So he's really trying to point out that the United States is paying too much, Germany's not paying, Germany's, quote, colluding with Russia, and they should be colluding with the U.S. on natural gas. And he's also taking a swipe at Russia to show that he's not colluding with Russia. He's basically saying Germany's doing that, and he's trying to take business away from Russia. So he really can't be Putin's puppet if he's trying to steal his business. And basically he was saying that Merkel was Putin's puppet. Very cleverly done. It created some outrage, but we'll see how all that turns out. I'll never know. Database Dina, the Morgan story. was, no, it wasn't a pumper. They think they found, I do trust once in a while they do find these, the Morgan silver dollars are always in big bags, and they were in the basement. They just hoarded a bunch of them to the American people. You were able to buy them for $1, like in 1963, 64, and they got rid of like 7 or 8 million of them out of some ridiculous number. Someone had a couple of bags of them. They're going to slab them. Sure, they'll be pumping around them, but I don't think it's disingenuous. They'll probably be overpriced too. All right, let's move on now from Nader to Trump. Also, this pick of Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court. Not much going on. We're going to see, and it probably doesn't make much sense. It looks like the votes are going to be there to get him elected. It looks like the mainstream Republicans, McCain, Romney, Jeb Bush, all came out and said this guy's wonderful. And it doesn't look like the Democrats were able to stop him. But that's not going to stop them from trying. And one of the angles they're using is that Kavanaugh had written a law review article talking about why the president, he was basically talking about Clinton at the time, shouldn't be distracted by these impeachment hearings. And they're going to try to say that Trump picked him because he's like a get-out-of-jail-free card, that he would vote against any type of indictment against him. But he's really not holding any particular view that isn't really not a mainstream legal point of view, because the way you get rid of a president is through the impeachment process and then 2/3 of the Senate vote. And that's the way you do it. You don't do it through this Mueller grand jury testimony. So I don't know if that's not really going to shake up many people. That's only going to incite the base, but they don't have enough votes. So I'm not sure that is going to be I'm sure it'll be a contentious debate, but it's really of no effect because they don't have the votes. And unless they find something in his past, which they would have found already, because this list that Trump had of the Supreme Court justices was around when he was running for office. These are all people. Kavanaugh was on the list of the 25 people. He didn't go off the list. All right, let's get to tonight's topic. Why are the Litecoin Foundation and Token Pay buying a bank? Before I get started, there's a lot of people listening to this channel that are 100% against cryptocurrencies, and I understand why, because I used to be against them too. And there's a lot of things that I have been against and then just accept they're part of life, and there they are. And whether I agree with them or I like them or I would have chosen them doesn't matter. I used to like the little SanDisk MP3 players. They had all types. I still have one. I have them right in front of me right now. All types of features. You can get FM tuning. You can select what songs. It has a it has a display you can read. You can far better than that little iPod Shuffle. But yet, everyone liked the iPod Shuffle. Nothing I can do about it. It's just my personal preference. But I don't drive the sales of the Sansa. People drive the sales of the iPod. Now, when I first looked at Bitcoin, I understood it intuitively, immediately. I read the white paper, and my whole argument against it was, so what? So the whole system works, and it self-validates, and you got miners, and but after all that's done, where's the value? Why is there value in creating a Bitcoin? Why is the value in validating something? I get it, you created a system, but I didn't see where the value was. Now, in money, there is, in most digital currencies, unbacked currency, there is no intrinsic value. People just accept that there's value, and that's it. So the problem I had with Bitcoin, I thought, I don't like this. I like to see something tangible. I don't like to see work for work's sake. But what happened over time with Bitcoin was people did ascribe value to it. They were transferring value, and people were accepting that when the system worked, it transferred value. Now, I didn't see what they were transferring. I thought they were just transferring bits. But as they built out the network and they built out the system and they had mining, it became accepted that there's value in Bitcoin, whether I would have ascribed value to it or not. Now, the way I look at that, it's irrelevant whether I ascribe value to it. It would be just like if I said, I don't think gold is worth anything. And your immediate response is, oh, yes, it is. Someone will buy it. Well, that's the response to Bitcoin. I could say Bitcoin is useless, it's worthless, just a string of digits. But there's people on the other end that will accept Bitcoin, convert it into fiat, which is my next point. So the biggest trick that, in my mind, that Bitcoin pulled off was that it managed to convince a substantial amount of market participants that there's value in transferring Bitcoin. That's indisputable. It has a price. There's futures on it. People mock me, oh, it's not an asset. Yeah, it is an asset. If you can buy goods and services with something, even though you think it doesn't have intrinsic value, it's the same argument people make against gold and silver. They say, why do you want a rock? Well, someone wants the rock and someone wants to pay for it. So that's where I view Bitcoin. I wouldn't have picked it, but that's irrelevant. It's there now. Now, the next problem Bitcoin had, a lot of people pointed out, was that Bitcoin was only valuable to the extent that it was able to be converted into fiat and spent. Now, that's partially true and partially not true, because there are certain cryptocurrency ecosystems that you can actually transact without going into fiat. But for the most part, most people think, especially a lot of people that came along in the last year or so, that they were going to get rich, and to them getting rich meant buying the Bitcoin, perhaps on credit card or using their bank account, trading the Bitcoin, and then taking the fiat profit and then going and spending it and buying their Lambo, whatever they were going to do. And that's how a lot of people looked at the value of Bitcoin. And the criticism of that was that the authorities could shut off the entrance points like they did with the credit cards, or even like India did with saying the banks aren't going to deal with crypto businesses, crypto exchanges, and thereby render or marginalize the Bitcoin system. Now, there's others that say, well, screw the banking system, we can do all this on our own, and that basically that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies can form their own ecosystems and their own pricing. And that's true, but that is a smaller opportunity, or it could be the biggest opportunity ever if it manages to replace the current system. Now, that is a pretty tall order. Now, again, if it were to happen and that Bitcoin or some cryptocurrency were to become the global currency, obviously that would be the biggest thing that could ever happen. I think that's remote. More likely what's going to happen is you're going to have what we have right now, which is a combination of acceptance by certain jurisdictions like Japan, the Philippines, where they allow cryptocurrencies, Malta, the United States certainly allows them, and they're just looking to regulate the cryptocurrencies. And for that reason, that's where you'll get a hybrid of cryptocurrencies will continue, if they wish, to operate outside the system, but they're already building on-ramps into the major financial system. And when you have that, then Bitcoin becomes part of the financial system because it becomes an asset that gets traded in and out of the banking system. It's priced in fiat, and then maybe it also has its own life off on atomic swaps and lightning networks and things that happen outside the banking system and transactions that happen outside the purview of everyone. But a good portion of Bitcoin, it's going to be like a Venn diagram as it is right now, I believe, where part of it is integrated in the banking system and they try to make some money out of it. All right, so what happened, Lambo coin, what happened with the Litecoin Foundation and Token Pay? Now, the Litecoin Foundation is basically Charlie Lee, who invented Bitcoin. Just quick, for people who don't know what Litecoin is, to simplify it, it's basically a fork of Bitcoin. Has some different cryptography, but it's basically a fork of Bitcoin, and instead of having 21 million coins, it has 84 million coins. So it's supposedly 4 times the number of coins of Bitcoin, and it was designed to be silver to Bitcoin's gold. It's kind of a test bed for Bitcoin. It doesn't have the drama that you have in the Bitcoin developer camp. You don't have this Roger Ver split with Bcash and Bitcoin and block size and segregated witness issues. Basically, Litecoin just went ahead and made its own advances, and for that reason it's considered a very safe bet. Not as safe as Bitcoin, if you consider any crypto a safe bet, but for other companies to use it, companies that are looking to use a coin as part of their systems. Now, the background here is that there's a company called TokenPay, and there's a lot of these companies out there where they're trying to issue cards, prepaid debit cards that you can preload with your cryptocurrencies. They're trying to work with the banks, and they're basically trying to make payments easier using cryptos. And the whole point of the supposed value of cryptocurrencies isn't that you buy them and hoard them, is that there's some benefit into using them. Now, up to date, most of the problem has been is there's no incentive to go out and buy a cryptocurrency in order to use it, because you can use your cash, you can use your credit card, and unless the merchant is giving you some type of discount, why would you want to hold it as an individual other than for the price to go higher? But if the price is going to go lower, now you're in a position where if you're a holder, you are looking for upside. You're not looking for spend side. Now, on the merchant side, a lot of people say, why would a merchant ever take Bitcoin? You can't take the risk. Well, that's already been sorted out by payment processors. You can accept Bitcoin. I've done it on the website and not even taken the Bitcoin. I had it run through Coinbase, and then it just pays me. If someone wanted to donate me $25, they'd send me $25 worth of Bitcoin, but I'd never see the Bitcoin. Now, unfortunately, what I should have done when people were willing to send Bitcoin back in 2015, I should have just taken the Bitcoin, but I took the cash at the time. All right, so the background to this now is Charlie Lee sold his Litecoin last year pretty close to the top, and everyone thought, well, that's pretty much a Judas move. Well, some people didn't, because he explained why he did it, and he said that he was still going to stay with Litecoin, even though he didn't have a monetary interest in the sense that he had sold all his Litecoin, but that he's really interested in this stuff and he wanted to see Litecoin succeed. And his vision involves the Lightning networks, but he really says he's all about trying to get Litecoin and Bitcoin to be used in merchant adoption. And he thinks that that is the key. And I would agree, because Bitcoin has no value intrinsically. Its value is in that it's part and parcel of a payment system, and that payment system is supposed to be superior, faster, cheaper. But if no one uses it, then it has a limited value. So in any event, the company TokenPay was working with another coin called Verge, which I had never heard of. And Charlie Lee is very involved in everything that's going on, not just with Litecoin, but in the whole space. And he got in some kind of spat with the owner or the CEO of TokenPay, because Verge was doing some type of fundraising and they were trying to get a partnership with an unnamed company. And it turned out they were going to work with TokenPay so that they can have Verge accepted at Pornhub. And Charlie Lee was a big critic of that, and he was saying, yeah, it's great that you've done this deal, and this is what I want to see, more people using cryptos. But he's kind of mocking Verge in that, why aren't we looking at Bitcoin, Litecoin, and so on? And he was basically inferring that the merchants shouldn't have to be bribed with money in a fundraiser to get them to use Verge. He was arguing probably, they should use Litecoin. Well, the TokenPay guy didn't like to hear that, and he kind of threw a barb at him about how he pseudo-bribed Coinbase to get Litecoin listed on Coinbase. So touche there. But as a result of this online spat, the two got together, and he said, how about we talk about a real debit card solution? And he mentioned to Charlie Lee that they were going to buy about 10% of a bank in Munich with an option to buy almost all the rest of it. He says he got a whole ecosystem in place and a plan. How can we work together? Now, what Charlie Lee has is this know-how, and he's basically spending his time, full-time, he says, working on with the Litecoin Foundation. So what they did, and this is quite remarkable, and this, just remember what I was talking about at the beginning, the on-ramps, the off-ramps. If a bank can close off the on-ramps and the off-ramps to cryptocurrencies, then you pretty much force it to become its own ecosystem. But if the cryptocurrencies like a virus can get into the system, then you can't kill the virus without killing the whole bank, so they become part of the system. And this is something I know you can see it in the big bank, too big to fail bank's eyes. They're really poking around the edges, but they want to get their foot in the door and see if they can make some money off of this. And they realize that it's probably better and more money to be made if they co-opt it, rather than let this thing drift off to the side where they won't have anything to do with it, and they won't make any money, and possibly could be a threat to them if it's off on the side and potentially developing its own network. So I think the idea is to try to, and it seems this is when they talk about payment systems, is to integrate a good portion of cryptocurrencies into mainstream payment systems, and mainstream payment systems do involve banks. Now you can do direct payments with merchants, but banks are often facilitating. So what TokenPay did was they bought this bank in Germany. I think it's called WEG Bank. And the idea is that they are going to use it basically to have all of the regulatory approvals that you need to operate as a bank and to operate with cryptos. So if you own the bank, you're not going to say, well, we're not going to deal with those Litecoin things, or we're not going to deal with those tokens or those Verges or those Bitcoin. They're going to be encouraging the use of these. Now, the 9.9 stake is interesting because apparently that first tranche of the bank that they own, they say, well, they only bought 10%. What's the big deal? Well, in Germany, you're not allowed to buy 10%. I think you're allowed to buy 9.9, and that's what they bought for regulatory purposes. And then once you get the regulatory approvals, then they have an option to buy, I think, another 80%, which would give them 90% of the bank. Now, how does Litecoin Foundation factor into this? Well, Litecoin Foundation is basically run by Charlie Lee, and they're going to give the Litecoin Foundation the first 9.9% of this bank in exchange for, it seems like, these consulting services. And this is right up Charlie's alley, because this is how to create a payment system and using a mainstream bank. Now, the bank, I think, was created in 2015. It's not Deutsche Bank, but it's some Munich bank, and it's a regular authorized bank. Now, what they're saying is that with the addition of Litecoin, they now have, with strategic marketing, they've got the blockchain technology, they've got a logistics partner in, this is from their press release, in WEG Bank. They think they can add several 100,000 customers to its debit card solutions platform in the near term. And then they say, with the technical expertise, now I'm reading, provided by Litecoin, there'll be a tremendous benefit to the establishment of comprehensive automation guidelines and standards employed by the bank as it explores new market opportunities. And then Charlie Lee says, this partnership is a huge win-win for Litecoin and TokenPay. I'm looking forward to integrating Litecoin with the WEG Bank AG and all the various services it has to offer to make it simple for anyone to buy and use Litecoin. Now, that is a problem because people who know how to use these cryptocurrencies, they scoff at people who don't. But hardware wallets and firmware updates, all that stuff, that is very daunting for many people. And it's just like electricity. You don't have to, for it to really work, you shouldn't have to know how it works. You should just be able to turn the switch on, plug something in, and have it work. If you have to do research, a lot of cryptocurrency fanatics say, you got to do research. If you have to do research, it's not going to happen. Most people aren't going to do research. And then if you have to understand it and be told you don't understand it, then if it's not apparent, it's not self-apparent, it's not going to be mainstream. No matter how many times you tweet that it's the future, it's not going to happen unless people can easily figure out how to use it. And this is part and part. People are familiar with banks. People are familiar with platforms. I know a lot of people say, well, you got to go off platform. And people will. People who know how to do it, want the privacy. Nothing's going to stop them other than someone trying to track them down and get their taxes or arrest them if they're doing something illegal. But for the most part, mainstream people want to be on platforms. And that's fortunately or unfortunately, banks are the place where people go. And I think that the part of the ecosystem of cryptocurrencies is going to end up in the bank, and at least in this particular vision, this bank is basically being taken over by TokenPay and the Litecoin Foundation. So it's a very interesting development, and to buy a bank is a very big deal, and their main thing right now is to get these cards integrated with the user's digital currencies and the wallet of their choice, enable them to upload them easily, and then to be able to use them as a debit card. That would be a big deal. And then from the merchant perspective, they're just getting a debit card and they just take it just like anything else. And again, it's like turning the light on and off. You don't have to know how the electricity is being generated. You don't need to know that your electricity is being generated by coal or by solar. It should be the same, so then it really wouldn't matter. So that's the big story of the day. As I said, I think in January, if this came out in January, December, it would be a big deal. The one thing that does fascinate me about the whole space is it doesn't matter where the price goes. And I thought after the price fell in 2013, when I had made my determination that this is a stupid idea because it's just creating a system, make work for its own purposes and wasting electricity, and then somehow you spit out something that's worthwhile and you confirm something that to me wasn't worth confirming. And then I thought, well, a lot of people would see it my way, and that's why it went down and it went away. But it didn't go away. The people working on these projects have continued to innovate, continue to come up with ways to improve the system, and they've already accomplished the biggest trick there is to get people to think that these things, these are valuable. And once they have that, it really is just a matter of, can they create the infrastructure, can they create the products and services that will take it to the next level. If they can't and it's not scalable, then it's going to go to zero. If they can and people still believe that there's value in digits, and I believe that there is, not because I like value in digits, but I believe the world has gone to a very digital age. I mean, all your music is digital, your movies are digital, everything is digital now, and there's fewer people that are interested in sound assets, tangible assets. They actually view, the younger people view a tangible asset as a, what's the word, as a burden. You got to carry it around. All right, well, that's it for now. I'm going to go back and take a look if we've got any comments or questions. I'll take those. Let's see. Well, we had problems with the sound. I think we sorted that out. Eric Dexter, it will happen one way or other. Banking and cryptos are combined along with brokers. All right, let's see. Dock of the Bay in the house. Market share coming soon. Lambo coin. Okay. Database DNA. What if they pull the bank's SWIFT access once Charlie gets everything set up, or blackmail him for a stake in the company? Well, I don't know how much of the SWIFT system you have to use if you're running it's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Apparently, though, if you are a member bank, which this bank apparently is fully regulated, they'll have a problem. You'll find out when they try to go beyond 9.9%. Right now, they have 9.9% of the bank, and they think it's just customary for them to get the approvals, and then they're going to own 90% of the bank if they're going to buy it. Now, it could happen, and I hope the lawyers wrote the contract right, that they don't get the 90%, they don't get the approval, but Litecoin Foundation gets the 9.9% ownership, and TokenPay gets nothing. I'm sure they worked that out, but maybe they didn't. Who knows? All right. Nathan Chandler, blockchain hashgram. Why am I having flashbacks to VHS versus beta? The crypto conversation is annoying. Sorry. Well, that's what happens when you're not aware of something and it doesn't go the way you had expected, and you were thinking that you would have a stack of gold or silver and everybody would value that and you'd be rich by now. And then all of a sudden people are talking about cryptocurrencies and you're like, I don't want this. This isn't what I want. I didn't, as Fredo says, but that's not what I wanted. When you get to that point, it doesn't matter what you want. And you can be annoyed by it. And I was. I thought this is the stupidest thing ever. I thought the Bitcoin people that were always telling me it's the future were annoying me. I didn't see it. But it doesn't matter now. It's already there. And being annoyed by it isn't going to help you. Entire internet will be on blockchain. Gus the broker. Sooner or later, they'll want cashless system in place. Yes, but here's the thing about the cashless system. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen anyway. But let's say it happened without a decentralized blockchain. Then you'd really be screwed. There'd be nowhere to go. They can cut you on and off the system, and that would be the worst thing. Also, there's an incentive for them not to go totally cashless. Sweden realized this finally, that if they were invaded by Russia, Russia would take over their digital system, and they'd have no way of funding any type of resistance because they wouldn't have cash. But the point is, I like to use the Native Americans. They probably didn't like the fact that the European settlers came and they had guns. They probably didn't like to hear them. They scared the buffalo. They scared them. They killed them. And it would have been better in their minds that they weren't there. But don't you think that the Native Americans finally realized the best thing for them to do is not be annoyed by it, but is try to get some guns themselves? And I think that's the same thing. If you're going to be on a digital battlefield and you're worried about total control, well, then you probably need to have digital assets off. You can try to live off grid, and you can try to be totally away from the system, but very few people can do that. So I still think that you need to have some type of digital awareness, because whether you want it or not, unless you have the power to stop it, the world is already headed in a very, very digital way. All right, Nathan Chandler. Well, sure, just knock out the power and see how young people feel then. Well, then the power either goes back on or it doesn't. Now, if you're hoping that the power goes off to teach the young people a lesson, it's also going to teach you a lesson. Because, the world is based on, for better or for worse, on an electrical grid and on power and so on. And you might have to revert for a time to barter or to other things, but that's not a better world. And hoping that things get worse so that the value of your precious metals goes higher, that's a defeatist attitude. You're hoping that the world collapses. You're hoping, this is what they've put through your head the last 10 years, is that we're going to have a collapse. Credit's going to freeze up. No one's going to be able to buy anything, but you're going to have your gold. Well, okay, that happened in Venezuela. You think everyone in Venezuela is happy that they had a total collapse of society, their money's no good, and they're hunting animals and zoos to eat? But some smart person there had silver. Who cares? All right. Mystery versus mystery. Honestly, eliminate the cash, you eliminate 90% of the criminality of the world. I don't agree with that. That was Bill Gates was trying to say that. And so is the guy from ABBA, who runs the ABBA Museum, and they only have cash. He said that, when my brother had his house burgled and they stole his bicycle, but if they couldn't sell it for cash, then then if there was no cash, then they wouldn't have stole his bicycle. Well, that's nonsense. They'd steal his bicycle and they get something else for it. I don't know. I don't believe that eliminating cash eliminates crime. The get-rich-quick scheme has been sold to the world, and how many are living a nightmare? Well, that's exactly my point, is what Charlie Lee is saying, and others that are in the crypto space, is that holding on to digital assets is kind of stupid, because it's not like you're holding on to a piece of jewelry that you can look at, you can enjoy it. There's nothing to do with a digital asset unless it somehow can be used and it's useful. If it's not useful, it really is nothing. And if that's why people bought it, because it was going up, well, of course they're going to sell it because it's going down. Money isn't real, says Nathan Chandler. Doesn't matter what form it's in. People just want to eat, sleep, crap, and screw in safety and comfort. And that's true. That is totally true. Look what happened when the car came along. There were many disadvantages to the car compared to the horse. They were dangerous. They ran out of gas. But the big deal about the car was it went faster. And that's what people wanted. They just wanted to go faster. They didn't care that more people were going to get killed. It was going to pollute the environment. They didn't care. People always select the easier option. In a car, you don't have to take care of a car the same way you take care of a horse. I mean, you have to not just wash it, you have to change the oil, you have to maybe change a tire every now and then, but you had to do that with the horse and carriage too. So when people look at Bitcoin over a tangible, like coins themselves, the average person, think about even before Bitcoin even came around, how many people started using credit cards instead of cash? Because it was easier. They just pulled a card out. They didn't want to carry cash. They didn't want to count the money. They didn't want to deal with the tactile experience, and it was easier. You didn't have to do math in your head. You didn't have to know how much money you had in your pocket. The cash guy didn't. The cash register didn't have to know how to make change. You didn't have coins in your pocket. You just whipped your card out and bought it. Now, the problem with that is obviously you're not paying attention to how much you spend. You overspend. It's on credit. They're charging you 19%. It's stupidity, or moronic, as I like to say, but people generally choose the easier way. Mystery versus mystery. Not religious, but they will throw their silver in the streets and their gold is beginning to make complete sense. Please explain that one to me. Wilfred, ma hegemony. Yes, dollar hegemony. DNA, not sure living Amish isn't a better world. Okay. And I would hope that people always have the option to decide how they want to live, where they want to live. And if you can live like the Amish, then have at it. If you can churn your own butter, make your own shoes, and you enjoy that, and you can actually live that way, I don't see a problem with it. The problem is most people can't. Most people don't want to because they don't know how to do it. But if you can, you can. Then you don't need TV. You don't need a smartphone. You can just live like that. And it would be, I would think if those communities went away, it would be a bad thing because you would lose the ability to see how you actually can live that way. All right. Trading in thin air. All right. Nathan Chandler. Us Gen Xers have been waiting for the apocalypse our whole lives. That's why we spent our time getting self-sufficient. Digital is easier for consumerism. I don't know if many Gen Xers have been waiting for the apocalypse and have been getting self-sufficient. I haven't seen any segment or age of the population that's self-sufficient. I think that's more of a cultural thing. Like with the Amish, maybe they are, or maybe there's certain prepper communities, but I don't think there's an age generation that's prepared. Mystery versus mystery. Going to challenge me here. Criminals operate under the table cash operation. That is definitely true. The cash and in international money laundering, cash is what they use. That's one of the reasons they do want to get rid of cash. You're right. Criminals will not resort to bartering as it takes too much work. Yeah, I guess if you want to say Benny Anderson, no one would have stole his brother's bike because then they would have to barter. But let's say they want to commit crimes like selling drugs. Well, they'll find other means of barter. And what they did find was the dark web with, they used Bitcoin initially. So they will find other ways to commit crimes. I don't think you'll get rid of crime just because you get rid of cash. It's almost like the tax evasion thing. It is a good way to go after a criminal that you can't get. You get them on tax evasion. So there is some truth to the fact that you can cut off financing. And that's what the civil forfeiture is about too. You take away people's property, you take away their cash, then they can't commit the crime. But okay, mystery versus mystery. Keeping transactions on ledger just goes back to ancient times. That's right. Blockchain itself is just an updated ledger unless it's decentralized. And the concept of decentralized is it's not held by one person. The problem with a centralized ledger is the person operating the ledger can make changes to it. And no one will know it. They can steal money. They can add things to it. They can subtract things to it. The genius of the cryptocurrency decentralized blockchain is that it is transparent and you can see all the transactions. You may not know who's making them, but you can't counterfeit and you can't add transactions. You can't add unless you're double spending, but that's a different issue with the 51% miners. But in a normal operating circumstance, the blockchain, decentralized blockchain, is a big advance on the ledger. All right. America's best days are ahead. Well, that could be. And with or without cryptocurrencies, with or without, money, can facilitate and did facilitate great advances in wealth. I mean, money allows people to do commerce that was inconceivable before. And it's possible that some form of digital currency, it doesn't have to be Bitcoin, or some forms of digital currencies will actually be beneficial. Now, with all the benefits that you may get, there are the caveats. There are the control issues. But remember, with these privacy coins, eventually everything could be cracked. But if during your lifetime they're not, then they've worked for whatever your purpose is. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining me this evening. You can join me every evening at 8 o'clock for a discussion. I try to post the topic in advance so you can come prepared either with questions or just may have an interest in the particular topic. But tonight was why are the Litecoin Foundation and Token Pay buying a bank? Hope I explained that, and we'll just have to track and see where that goes. Thank you very much, everybody. Uh, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time database to ask. 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every evening. Thanks for joining us. I can't leave until I make a pitch. So when I go to the post office, I can add another mug or two.